with the economy and trade taking centre stage. Of course, it's those tariffs and the vast changes that President Trump is making to the way America deals with its biggest trading partners and competitors that has stolen the limelight.
The elevators at Amazon's Seattle HQ stopped running after dark. War rooms that once buzzed with strategy went quiet. No press release, no warning, just silence. Then came the shock. Amazon packed up and moved its entire global command overseas. Not just a branch, not just a backup, the whole empire. Why? Because Trump's tariffs hit hard, and now the world's biggest online marketplace isn't calling America home anymore. Is this the beginning of a corporate exodus, or just the cost of economic war?
Cost app, something called Amazon Haul, where goods sell for under $20, but that was never approved and certainly will not go forward. So a bit of a back and forth, but it sends a chilling message, and I think it highlights some of the tension we have seen which exists between the business community.
Amazon didn't want to be the villain in this story. As prices began to rise due to the wave of new tariffs imposed by Mr. Donald Trump, the company started exploring a controversial idea: show shoppers exactly how much of a product's price was due to tariffs. It wasn't just about defending their brand, it was about being honest. If a $39.99 product suddenly cost $49.99, Amazon wanted to make it clear that it wasn't because they were being greedy, it was because the rules changed and someone else was holding the pen. The move, however, didn't land well in Washington. When word leaked that Amazon might begin displaying tariff-related price hikes right on product pages, the response was fast and furious. The White House reportedly viewed the move as a political stunt designed to turn public opinion against the tariffs. According to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, President Trump himself got on the phone with Jeffrey Bezos. What was said on that call wasn't made public, but the outcome was loud and clear. Amazon quickly backed off. They said the plan had been prematurely discussed and wasn't ever fully greenlit. Behind closed doors, the message was clear: Amazon had crossed a line. Even though their aim was transparency, the political cost of appearing to undermine the administration's trade policies was too steep. In the end, what could have been a quiet act of corporate honesty turned into a full-blown conflict between one of the world's biggest companies and the most powerful office in the country.
Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos. The result? A retreat. Amazon has dropped the plan to display tariff prices on their website.
Once it became obvious the tariffs weren't going anywhere and the political pressure was only growing, Amazon had a choice to make: stay and bleed, or go and rebuild. The numbers were brutal. Internal projections showed the company stood to lose more than $13 billion over the next 3 years if it continued operating under the new tariff regime. That kind of hit isn't just bad, it's existential. So, behind the scenes, Amazon launched something big: Project Silver Compass. It wasn't a PR move, it was an escape plan.
Well, Amazon just had a close shave with none other than US President Donald Trump. The reason? Tariffs.
Executives started quietly looking for a new home. They examined Singapore, Ireland, Canada, and the UAE. Each had its strengths: favorable tax codes, trade-friendly regulations, strong digital infrastructure. But the UAE pulled ahead fast. The offer was everything Amazon needed: zero corporate taxes for a decade, full data control under a sovereign treaty, and a state-of-the-art logistics hub being built just for them in Dubai. It wasn't just a new address, it was a complete reinvention of Amazon's global footprint. This wasn't about abandoning America out of spite. It was about survival. Amazon had to protect its margins, its future, and its promise to customers. Staying would have meant constant fights with regulators, unstable prices, and lost trust. Leaving was the boldest and perhaps only way to stay Amazon. And so, in a move no one thought would happen this soon, the company packed up its command center and pointed the compass east.
Container of goods coming over would have a $14,500 tariff on it. That's more than the cost of the goods is the cost of the tariff. That will clearly be a big cost difference for these sellers that are selling on Amazon.
Seattle didn't just lose a company, it lost its identity. For over 2 decades, Amazon was the economic engine that powered the city. It transformed sleepy neighborhoods into tech hubs, turned local cafes into brainstorming dens for software engineers, and drove property values to record highs. But when Amazon announced it was relocating its global headquarters, everything changed almost overnight. The heart of Seattle's economy skipped a beat, and then it started to break. The effects were immediate. Office buildings that once had long wait lists were suddenly flooded with vacancies. The hum of construction that echoed through downtown came to a halt. Real estate prices, once among the fastest growing in the country, began to slide. With no new Amazon employees coming in and many current ones planning relocations, demand for housing plummeted. Landlords who had once been charging premium rents found themselves slashing prices just to fill empty units. Small businesses suffered even more. Coffee shops, food trucks, dry cleaners, businesses that had thrived on the daily Amazon workforce saw foot traffic vanish. For some, there was no recovery plan. Shops that had been part of the neighborhood for years began to close, one after another. It wasn't just about economics. For many residents, it felt personal. Amazon wasn't just a job provider, it was the reason why Seattle had become one of the most exciting cities in the country. Without it, the city's energy felt dimmer. City officials were blindsided. They scrambled to stabilize the situation, but the damage was already underway. Tax revenues dropped sharply, especially from business-related sources. Projects that were once funded with confidence, public transit expansions, school renovations, infrastructure upgrades, were suddenly under review. Budget meetings turned tense. Leaders debated emergency measures, subsidies, and incentives to retain other major employers who might now be having second thoughts about staying. The broader emotional toll was just as devastating. For many Seattle residents, especially those who had moved to the city to chase the tech boom, the departure of Amazon felt like the end of an era. Community groups voiced frustration over how dependent the city had become on a single corporation. Critics asked why the local government hadn't seen the writing on the wall and diversified earlier, but hindsight offered little comfort. The exodus had already begun. Amazon's decision didn't just shake Seattle, it sent shockwaves through the entire corporate world. The message couldn't have been clearer. If trade policies and political decisions made it harder to operate, even the biggest players wouldn't stick around out of loyalty. They would move.
These are working people who may have voted for Donald Trump, who instead of just the pain of maybe paying more for your everyday goods, we're talking about a reordering of working class parts of the American economy.
Other tech giants started reassessing their strategies. Apple accelerated its efforts to shift iPhone and MacBook production out of China, leaning further into manufacturing expansions in India and Vietnam. The goal was the same: reduce exposure to US-China trade tensions and diversify the supply chain. Apple had already been testing the waters in these countries, but Amazon's bold exit gave them a fresh sense of urgency. Tesla wasn't far behind. With an eye on Indonesia's vast nickel reserves and newly introduced tax breaks, the company began exploring a deal to build gigafactories there. Elon Musk had long talked about global expansion, but the current political climate added new pressure. Tariffs, trade limits, and shifting regulations made even established markets feel unstable. Indonesia, with its pro-business government and natural resources, was suddenly a frontrunner for future operations. Even companies outside tech took notice. Logistic firms, pharma giants, and auto manufacturers began reevaluating their global footprints. Corporate advisors warned of a new era of mobility thinking, where businesses no longer viewed headquarters or major campuses as permanent fixtures. Instead, companies would adopt a flexible mindset, ready to shift operations wherever policies were most favorable. Amazon's decision to relocate its global headquarters abroad isn't just a corporate move, it's a defining moment that challenges the entire identity of American business. For decades, being a US-based company came with a sense of national pride, access to the largest consumer market in the world, and a stable economic environment. But in today's globalized economy, those traditional advantages are no longer guaranteed. The rules are shifting, and Amazon's exit is the clearest sign yet. The core issue lies in the tension between protectionism and innovation. The United States, under President Trump's second term, doubled down on tariffs and trade restrictions to protect domestic industries. The intention was to support American workers and manufacturers, but the ripple effect has been complicated. Companies that rely on global supply chains, especially tech and e-commerce giants like Amazon, have found themselves squeezed by rising costs and unpredictable policies. When faced with the choice of paying billions more in tariffs or relocating to more business-friendly environments, Amazon made the call that most multinational firms are quietly preparing to make: adapt or die. So what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.